Hello everyone, welcome to Crypto Basics Coach podcast. I'm Marco. I'm here to help people navigate this topic so as to benefit from the opportunity this new technology provides and not get distracted or put off from the nonsense there is out there about crypto. Anything and everything presented and discussed, whether here or in our sessions, is of an educational nature and should never be taken as financial advice. Always do your due diligence and consult professionals before making any final decisions. Hi everyone, how are you doing? Wow, what a week between what the market's been doing, ETFs launch, all sorts of news. Quite a crazy market, but the fundamental analysis and the fundamentals of where this stuff is going is just phenomenal. 11 months, I would never have expected. 11 months of constant fantastic news about fundamentals. Don't get too wrapped up in the price movement, guys. We're on the right track. Anyway, this week, what I wanted to talk about, as I've found in a number of my coaching sessions, people, of course, ask questions like, well, what do I use for this and where do I go for that? And what should I be utilizing for analysis? What sort of tools and gadgets do I need? So that's why this one's called Tools of the Trade. Okay, so I'm just going to go through some of them. This is not exhaustive, but it'll at least give you a bit of a feeling for the sort of things that you eventually want to get, whether it's on your phone, on your laptop, wherever. So, and in no particular order, I'll start with TradingView. TradingView is a charting tool. It's probably the best tool in the market. Day traders use it, professional traders use it, analysts use it, YouTubers use it, and you can buy different subscriptions to it, okay? And each level up obviously gives you more capability, more indicators, etc. But even if you're not looking to trade, whether it's swing trades or whether it's day trading, it's still worthwhile having a charting program so that you can have a bit of a look and start to understand price movement. A lot of the terminology that people use will be in those charts, okay? And so the basic package is more than enough to get you started, and it'll start giving you an idea of what's going on with the particular cryptos that you're interested in. And TradingView is not just for crypto, you can use it for shares as well and commodities and so forth, right? It's quite a good in-depth tool that you can be using. But yeah, I'd recommend you get that so that you can start getting some analytical ability in looking at charts and so forth. By default, there are some platforms where you can, if you're looking up the particular assets you own, yes, you can click on them and actually get some very basic charts. But TradingView is good for that. The next thing I'd suggest is CoinGecko. CoinGecko is a tool that you can download onto your phone, and it's a great way of keeping an eye on all sorts of different crypto coins, okay? And it's also good because you can click on the particular coin. You can then investigate fundamentals about tokenomics, how much has already been distributed, what's available. You can scroll down further and it even gives you the websites, the legitimate websites that will explain what those projects are. You've got descriptions, etc., etc. So CoinGecko I use predominantly when I'm especially looking at a new coin. CoinGecko pretty much covers all the coins that are available, and so you're able to get an overview of what that coin is all about and possibly track it through, like a favorites list. The other one that I use is CoinMarketCap. That's another one that I use. I specifically use that to be tracking the actual price, especially in Australian dollars, for example. So you can change these apps to have the appropriate currency that you wish, especially if you're not in the US. And that's the one that I use locally for that purpose. X, or what used to be called Twitter, that is a pretty good tool for news. Okay, so if you're trying to keep up to date with what specific YouTubers that you might be listening to are talking about, or you're wanting to keep up with just some general news about the industry or funds or fundamentals, etc., as you develop the preferred sources of your information, you're able to also follow them on X, and X tends to be obviously more real-time than if you're listening to people on YouTube. You might find that 2 or 3 days go by before you hear something on YouTube, whereas X almost tells you instantly what's going on. And especially when we've got so many things going on fundamentally around funds, around ETFs, around regulations, etc., it's probably a good thing to do. So if you haven't already set up an account for X, make sure you do. It's a great place to get news. You're going to want if you're out of the States, that is, you're going to want a currency conversion tool. So most mobile phones can either do it directly or you can download a free app. Okay, so you're able to convert your currency into US and vice versa. Okay, so that can be handy to make your calculations and work out where things are at. One of the other tools on your computer would be to get onto Discord. You can have that on your mobile as well, and that's of course for the purpose of when you're joining communities that you've sourced through YouTube's, that you've decided that, yep, this is a good community. They've been congruent with what they've been saying. I think I'll go this one step further and become a member, get onto some of the chats, possibly post some questions, ramp up your learning. They're great environments for basically interaction. And, no small point, but if you're not already where you want to be financially, probably the network that you have of people you hang out with and listen to probably isn't the one you need. So these Discords are a great way of being able to expand your horizons and expand your network so that you're able to then get access to the information that you need. Next one's pretty obvious, YouTube. Clearly get onto YouTube and get onto the channels that are going to give you the information that you're after. And as I've mentioned in previous chats, previous videos on TikTok and Instagram and so forth, you need to at least have half a dozen to a dozen channels, perhaps each covering a slightly different topic. But the important thing is that you relate to them and that you trust their information, and you may very well have to be listening to them and watching them maybe over a 3-6 month time period before you start feeling that, yep, you relate to them, their information is congruent with who they are, they're actually being intellectually honest, because you won't believe how many out there just aren't. Okay, whether it's through sheer ignorance, stupidity, or hidden agendas, it's just amazing. So get onto YouTube. Another one to obviously look at if you're not already doing this, which would be surprising, but even with your normal bank accounts and so forth, is second factor authentication apps. Okay, depending on the platform you're using, you might end up with 3 or 4 of these on your phone. They're one of the best ways to protect your credentials of logging into environments and portals for finance, banking, etc. So ensure that you've got second factor authentication apps on your phone, and of course be sure that you're activating second factor authentication on your accounts. Okay, almost every account that's got to do with finance and banking and so forth has that capability. Even if you have a SIM swap where your phone is duplicated or perhaps your email is hacked, trust me, second factor authentication apps could be the very last line of defense for you. Okay, so make sure you're using them. Yes, it's an extra step in setting them up, but it'll be well worth it. Also, what I'd suggest you do is get a password safe generator. Okay, so what's that? Well, that's an application, again, you can either have on your computer or on your phone, and what it does is it generates passwords for you. Okay, and typically it would be an application that's encrypted. Ideally, it would take a lot of time or a lot of effort for someone who perhaps gets access to your computer or access to that application to be able to unencrypt it. So what it does is it's a place where you're able to store all your passwords for all your accounts. I know most of us are pretty lazy around this, and we have favorite passwords, and we've probably used the same password across 17 different things, which is great. As soon as you're hacked and someone works out your one password, it means everything else is compromised. Okay, so get into the habit of every single account you set up, especially to do with your finances or personal information, testimonies, regulatory things, taxes, etc. Make sure you create a separate password for each. Okay, yes, it's a bit annoying when you have to log into them. Perhaps you're going to have to get access to your computer, but again, you simply can't underestimate the threats that are out there from an IT perspective. Okay, so start generating passwords that could be 8, 9, 10, 15 characters long. Let the application generate the password, but you put it all in the one area, into the one app, and just have good password hygiene. It's as simple as that. Another area of securing your information is, again, most of us are pretty lazy. We tend to have 1 or 2 emails and we use them for everything, which is great. So as soon as someone does hack into your account, again, they've got access to everything, or at least starts to have access to everything. So I would suggest that you start having separate emails, okay, for separate things. So you might have one email that's quite obscure. It doesn't have your first name and your surname, which is clearly displaying who you are. Have an abstract email specifically for all your finances, and you may have 2 or 3 of those depending on what you're using them for. Okay, number one, it'll hide your identity a lot better. Two, it's harder to hack. And third, don't have those emails forwarding to your general email, because again, if someone hacks into your general email account, they're going to see all these emails being forwarded, and potentially they'll go after those as well. Okay, so keep them separate. Yes, it means, again, a little bit more discipline, but you're going to have to log into perhaps your Google web browser to access these emails directly. But yeah, don't have them being forwarded to your general email account just for convenience. It's poor practice. And you only have to get stung once, and you'll always regret it. The other thing that I would suggest is have dedicated devices for DeFi. This is something I go through in my sessions with people. So, you could use a laptop, a dedicated laptop. There's all different degrees of security around whether you're using the everyday phone and you've got your DeFi hot wallets on that phone. So use dedicated devices for any DeFi interaction that you're into, okay? Again, it's just best practice. And if some of this stuff is confusing, you know what to do. Get to the website, book a session, and we can have a chat. The other two, I've got two more things here. Minimum of 2 safe locations for your 24-word passphrase. For those of you who don't know what this is, well, this is essentially when you set up a cold wallet, you're going to be given, through that cold wallet, a 24-word passphrase. And essentially, these are the keys to the kingdom. Okay, you don't give them to anyone, no matter who prompts you for them. You do not give them. You do not enter them online. You do not take a digital photo. You do not have digital representations of what they are. You do not store them on your computer. You do not store them on your phone. Are you getting a hint here? Okay, they should be written down, or an alternative is, if you get yourself an engraving tool, you can potentially engrave the words onto a metal plate, but it's at least fireproof. Okay, I know it sounds ridiculous, but no, I'm absolutely serious on this, okay, guys? You need to have a non-digital copy of those phrases. Now, whether you have 2 or 3 copies, that's up to you, but you would want to have at least a minimum of 2, okay? Why? Because if you lose these and your cold wallet fails, it's a piece of IT. What do you expect? It potentially will fail over a number of years. You will basically have lost however much money you've got on it. Okay, so self-custody comes with a responsibility, so act responsibly. Make sure you've got at least 2 safe locations. Some of the locations could be a hole in the backyard. It could be that you've got it in a bank vault, or a safety deposit box, or whatever. You figure out where, and you do have to consider the fact that, well, if your house goes up in smoke and you don't have it in a fireproof location, well, your fortune could also be going up in smoke. Okay, so take it seriously. As the numbers get bigger, as we expect over the next few months, next few years, this amount is going to hurt a hell of a lot more if you muck up. So make sure you have a minimum of 2 safe locations. It's either written down, pen or pencil, it's up to you, or engrave it onto, and there are other tools that you can get that are essentially metal-based. Okay, so they are fireproof. And you don't need to worry about, fading ink or anything like that. But get that done as well and square that away. And while we're on that, I would suggest that you use multiple cold wallets. Don't put everything into the one cold wallet. It's the old saying of don't have everything in the one bucket. Okay, then you've got a single point of failure, and you don't want that. So, whether you put different cryptos on different cold wallets, or whether you disperse the same crypto, perhaps over 2 or 3 cold wallets, you figure out how to do it. But just act and think responsibly and mitigate the risk. Okay, of something happen. Maybe one day you make a mistake under stress and you've compromised one of your wallets. Well, ideally you don't want that to be holding your whole fortune. Okay, so if you've got it spread over a few wallets, that's obviously a better practice than having it all in the one. So there's just a couple of the tools that I wanted to go through, and some of the practices I wanted to go through to get you set up. I know it might sound a lot, but over time, whether it's, you doing your own due diligence, or whether you're sitting down with sessions with me, this is the sort of stuff we get straight from day one. Okay, and if you get these practices right from day one, they'll just continue flowing in, and it won't matter how big your fortune is. You've got the right practices. But if you get lazy up front, you're more likely to carry forward bad practices. Okay, so I wouldn't suggest you do that. Now, homework. So last week's homework was to do with what is a sophisticated accredited investor and what opportunities do they get exposed to that retail doesn't. And hopefully it was a bit of an eye-opener for you to realize how the world is separated between those that have and those that don't. Okay, and the qualifications that you need to meet in order to become a sophisticated investor, which for most people in crypto, if they stick to their guns, there won't be a question that they'll they'll be able to meet that criteria, okay? And then you'll be opened up to even more opportunities. This week, what I want you to do is think about this. How many levels of gold are there? And do they all have the same price per ounce? I was surprised when I came across this. But yeah, go and look into that. I know we've talked about gold before and why central banks are buying it. But yeah, go have a look at how many different levels there are of gold. So you would have thought, well, gold is gold is gold. But no, it doesn't work that way. Anyway, I hope you have another exciting week as we did last week. And as always, look forward to talking to you next week. You guys take care. Take it easy. Bye. If you found this information helpful and are interested in a more hand-holding approach while navigating this complex industry, please visit cryptobasicscoach.com, that's basics with an S, and book a session. The first 30-minute session is free, and we can get to know each other, talk about what your aims are, what you're looking to do, and how I might be able to possibly help. I've helped people get started, set up exchange accounts, wallets, DeFi platforms, and general knowledge. Look forward to speaking with you. Cheers.